So how does someone in a class of 180 to 240 collect homework assignments, which again we call external brain assignments? What are the mechanics of that? So I'm lucky to have over the last 6 years built a teaching assistant program with Anatomy. It started from nothing. There was a few students interested in becoming involved with the next year's class, and so I invited them to join, and slowly over time we've sort of built this process where students who have finished the class know that there's an opportunity the following year to being a teaching assistant. And so that is actually a huge part of how we do this, the mechanics of how can I collect this many homework assignments. But when I first started, I didn't have that opportunity. And so when I first started, what I did to manage the number of students was to randomly select which students would turn in their external brain that day. Because the way that I would express it to the students is, your job is just to be prepared, right? Whether I call your name or not is really of no great importance because you'll be here and you'll be prepared. And so, one day I'll call you and the next day I won't. And that it works pretty well. I think students sometimes are disappointed when they can't turn it into you that day, but they worked with it just fine. So I used to collect maybe 60 at a time in each day. And then as this program of teaching assistant, undergraduate teaching assistants who volunteer, now I usually have about 6 of them work with me, and each of them takes a small group of classes. So 6 years later, from where I started doing all the grading myself, now I'm at a point where there are 6 folders around the classroom with by last name. So students with A through C last names always know that their homework folder's in the front. They pick up at the beginning of class and they turn in at the end of class. And so even with a really large group of students, like 240 in the fall term anatomy class, once you have a system like that in place, the students know where they're going, they know what they're doing, and it really is fairly seamless. I have to have a good sturdy backpack to carry it all with me, but I carry it back to our department office and distribute it to the undergraduate TAs, and they have it graded and brought back the next day. I think an important part of that, though, is that we're not, and the students know this, but we're not grading them for accuracy. What we're doing is helping them to prioritize their work. And I've had good conversations with the students about the fact that they're so glad I asked them to hand in their work, because so many times they've said, push comes to shove and you have a list of things to do and you need it to be a priority, and by having to turn it in, it moves it to the top of the priority list. So they've encouraged me to continue the practice. But also I try to make it very clear through a rubric that really we're confirming that they've completed the assignment and that they followed the appropriate guidelines for the assignment. And so the whole external brain assignment for the term has one set of guidelines, and as long as they always follow those, and they have mostly to do with plagiarism, as long as they follow those, then they will receive the check for following the guidelines and a check for completing the assignment. So I'm not actually asking undergraduate TAs to assess whether or not the content is true or not true. And I think the reason that system still works is that the class time is meant for the student to discover whether the knowledge they've collected is accurate or not accurate. If they just did the assignment and we never spoke about it again, I could see them being concerned about, well, how do I know if I was correct or if I was along the right lines? But because we use the class time then to go over all of that material, but in a more application fashion or using clicker questions or some way for them to assess their knowledge, they can decide for themselves basically whether they were accurate or not accurate in their collection and construction of knowledge. So that's part of the mechanics of how this all happens, but it's surprisingly fluid, and again, students have the system of where to drop off and where to pick up and the times that are appropriate to do it, and the undergraduate TAs have allowed me to now collect homework from every single student, every single class, and I do that every single class of the term, and it actually is, with their help, has become little to no burden really at all. I have one very responsible undergraduate TA, or sometimes a graduate student who's assigned to the class to actually do the uploading to Blackboard part of it. But even that, we try to keep it simple. We use a deductive system, meaning that you only need to change something in Blackboard if they didn't do what you expected, because clearly we expect all students to come and be prepared and ready to go, and so it's just a surprise if it's not. If that's the case, then we can move in a deductive way. Therefore they don't have to be actually adding a grade to 240 students' records. It's simply the small number of students who weren't able to meet all the expectations that day. They just go into their grade books and make those changes. So it's actually not even too much of a time constraint, even for that one TA or graduate student who's sort of leading the team. And to be honest, I've debated a lot about the amount of points that should be associated with something like homework, and I've usually ended up in the 15 to 20 percentage points across a whole term to be associated with this. And I think that students put a lot of work into it, and therefore it needs to show, I think, in their overall evaluation that they have put a lot of work into it. So I don't want to diminish it by making a very small amount, but I felt like 20% with the other exams that they have, therefore really almost nothing in the class is worth more than maybe 35%. Most are between 20 and 25. So it helps to distribute the different opportunities students can have to demonstrate their knowledge.